Okay, lately there has been some discussion on social media, right, about compatibility in marriage.
Yeah.
So I think it started by an individual's post about if you are a well-educated woman with a PhD or degree, then why do you want to marry a man?
ITE grad.
Yeah, and I think okay lah, the language maybe is not that great because they refer to guys as like jantan and all these things. So I mean, people have been talking about this, and you are a very seasoned lawyer in divorce cases, and I think you have seen a variety of reasons why people divorce. Infidelity, money. But would this come across as a problem in the society? The man is too not educated enough and the woman is too educated. Is that an issue?
So, I mean, I want to share my views on this. I think it's timely that I share, and quite a number of individuals from the community have also shared their views on this. I don't intend for this to be a retort or a rebuttal against the individual who posted it. I want to talk about the topic in general, right? Because there is a lot of assumptions here that if a person has a degree, the person will automatically have more money. Not necessarily the case. Or a person who has a degree or masters will be more responsible in that sense. The essence of it is what's important between parties when they marry in terms of compatibility is values, I feel. Because there are many degree holders out there who are not able to hold a job.
Okay.
You know, they finish their degree, they go for sabbatical, after they go here, go there, quit the job, find a new job, so on and so forth. So, it's very hard to say that just because you marry someone who is of the same education level as you, you're going to have a good marriage in that sense. What I understand is, I mean, we have Asatiza here. I don't want to quote any hadith or what wrongly, but there is, I believe there is a hadith which I have seen where it is stated that, the first thing you look at the person, there are a few conditions when you marry someone. The first thing is taqwa, right? Religiosity of the person. So I think this is something that we must focus on. And also coming back to the degree part, right? Just because you have a degree, does that automatically make you a responsible individual? For instance, or let's say you have a master's, but your salary is, for example, let's go into real numbers. Let's say you are master's grad or PhD like you, and then salary 10K, and then you marry someone who is a diploma holder, but probably salary 30K. So how does that mean you are not compatible? Or don't just look at it in terms of money. Forget money aside for a moment. Just let's talk about something a little bit more philosophical. Just because you have a degree doesn't mean you are an educated person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
What is education? I mean, you have PhD in education, right? Let's say now there are so many people who study online. You go to, for example, many London universities offer an entire master's or degree program online. You can study online and just get it, you see. But does that make you an educated person? This is something that we must obviously ask ourselves, because I have seen through the course of me being an employer, people from very good schools coming and working for me as employees. I could never even qualify for such schools. So does that mean I'm inferior? If I'm inferior to them, why do they come and work for me? So this is something we must ask ourselves, you see.
So there are a few layers here, right?
Yeah.
The few
Money, character, responsibility.
No, I think the underlying one is does educational certifications, right? Do these things actually demonstrate that a person is educated lah, in that sense lah, because there are people, for example, let's say in a marriage you want to run a family, you must make good decisions. Does making good decisions correlate with your educational certs? So that's what I mentioned lah, and I tend to argue that it's not quite, it's not exactly correlated. In fact, might not even be any correlation depending on how the person went about their educational journey.
Okay.
I think so. So I think that's a bit of a side issue lah, because there won't be any end to this debate as to whether the education system is producing intelligent people or not lah. I think that one is another
Or responsible people for that.
Or responsible people. But I think it's more what he's touching on is more of the issue of compatibility. And I think this idea, and he mentions it in a one directional way, where if the man is not as educated as the wife, then there's a problem. But I think he doesn't mention the other way because probably he thinks that the other way there's not so much problem lah. So that might have something to do with maybe the guy's ego. I don't know. It could be a possible.
It's very interesting, no, because I know this woman. She's an NUS grad, and she tried to meet like some other degree holders. And then
For the purposes of marriage,
for the purpose of marriage, and then she felt that this is what she shared with me lah.
Okay, I know who.
don't say. Okay, then she told me that macam she cannot stand the people yang from NUS, the men from NUS, because she felt that because she is an alpha kind of woman, she wants to be in control, she wants to take charge. So like she feels that someone yang from like same level as her cannot listen to her, you know, she cannot let her be in control. So she purposely like choose those from ITE that time. So with ITE also she felt like macam okay, she cannot connect intellectually with that man. So she settled for no, it's not okay. So she purposely settled for someone who is lower education than her from poly. So someone who can listen to her, someone who can take her, allow her to be in charge. So
such women,
I think it depends on what kind of woman you are.
I know.
Such women, are they the norm?
No, I'm not sure lah. But then because I don't see many divorce cases, okay. But macam this is just like a fellow close friend. So macam I think it depends on what kind of woman you are. If you are someone yang you like the man to be the listener and like not the alpha and dominant type, then by all means lah kan. But if you
choose someone who makes you happy lah, in that sense, right? For her, if she's happy, go ahead. I've seen couples that where the wife earns 3 or 4 times more, but the husband, like what you say, is a listener, it's a very calm person, very gentle person, and they are happy. Because I remember seeing in the Quran a verse where it says that you are created in pairs, marry so that you have solace and tranquility. You achieve that, you see, solace and tranquility, right? So that is, I think, something that is very critical. You may marry a fellow degree holder, but your marriage may be cold and dry, you see. You may not be happy at all. And also, I want to maybe add one point. Just because you get a degree, again I say, doesn't mean you are educated. There are also many different kinds of degree. People who fail don't get good GPA in poly, or maybe don't get good grades in A levels, can still take diploma at degree at private institutions. So how does that make you more of an educated person? I know many people who stop their education at diploma level and are earning far more than degree holders or even master's graduates. You are just going a bit more in depth in the topic if you go into masters or you go into PhD, right? Like say for example you're doing masters in econs. If you don't go to UOL and take your degree, you buy all the books that is in the reading list and you read everything and you understand and you watch. Just because I don't have a cert, does it mean I'm less of a person with less who is less educated? I don't agree that a degree means you are an educated person. There are so many people who self-study.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, I see your point, but I think right. So your assumption is this has to do with money, about earning potential, whether you have a degree holder.
Not just money. Money is one part of it, right? Because I mean, I'm sure now from our video, people will say, oh, these people are focusing more on money. But actually, for me, it's not about money whatsoever. It's about values. What is your value at the end of the day? Because I know people who work 2 jobs. Their wives are professionals. They are not. So they work 2 jobs to try and match up in a way, you see. Maybe he's earning in one job 2K, wife earning about 6K. He goes and does an additional job, drives taxi or whatever, and brings back home about 4 or 5, and they are happy. Most important is they are happy. The couple has to decide, right, what kind of life I want to lead. You don't say, okay, I love you, I want to marry you, and then your salary is 2,500, but then you're expecting him to bring you for expensive business class, first class holidays. Then you are not in sync lah. You need to be practical.
Actually, I think that's the problem. That's partly the problem, because sometimes the expectations are not met in a financial sense. And that has to do with the so-called educational qualifications. Correct. And I think that's what he's talking about. I think what he's referring to is that you cannot marry a guy who doesn't have your certs and then expect this kind of thing. And I think that is what probably he's seen a lot of divorces that end up like that.
I mean,
lah.
I wouldn't know where he is coming from. Like I said, I want
But
to
do you
talk
see a lot?
about the thing in general. But I think to an extent, you see, the problem is social media posts, right? You post something, everybody will say this is the only factor, but actually you could be relating it to one particular context. Obviously, what he said inside the post, and I like I said again, I'm not doing a rebuttal or whatsoever, just discussing the topic in general. But if you look at the post, for example, he would say that the person who went to the ITE, maybe he did not, and you have a degree, that person may not have put in that much discipline in trying to study, right? Maybe from an academic perspective, that person is not as good as you, but that doesn't mean he's not strong in other things. I just read an article yesterday which I sent to you over WhatsApp, CEO of JP Morgan saying that in the future it's going to be skills based hiring. People are doing away with 4-year degree programs to go and obtain a skill, and wherein they can earn more than a degree holder. So the entire structure or construct of education is actually changing.
It's been challenged now.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure lah. It's been challenged. The fact that there's a lot of freelancers, a lot of people who are just learning skills like coding, video editing, and all these things.
But obviously there is benefit of I remember I watched a clip, Sylvester Stallone, and he said that if you get a degree, if you have a degree, you studied and all that, right? It just tells your employer that you can come to work on time. If I give you a certain task, you can complete it within a certain deadline. We want to build that discipline, but that does not mean you suddenly become a person with values, or a person who is responsible, a person who can hold a job. In my experience, I have seen, I don't see this kind of compatibility as an issue. I think people don't discuss before they get married. The husbands feel that it's enough. Oh, I just give my wife $50. When I cross-examine them during child maintenance trial and I ask them questions, they are a bit confused as to how much is the total expenses. So I would say less compatibility, more communication. Because compatibility, if you look at some, for example, I know certain friends who tell me that they are Said and they can only marry Sharifah, for example, right? Or even not just them, but in in India and Pakistan, even amongst the Muslims, they would say you have to marry someone who is of a similar social, tribal status as you, for instance. That's because of the understanding, your understanding of what is life, right? But if, let's say, in Singapore, nobody cares, nobody knows what is your tribe and all that. I asked him what kind of, is he Indian? He said, yeah, could be. What kind, he also doesn't know, right? So I know a little bit lah, but we were not taught all these tribal things and all that, and it's not necessary. So I think people just need to sit and discuss what I want out of the marriage. If we are happy with each other, and then how are we going to contribute, what kind of house you want to buy, the expectations lah, that is what brings about compatibility, values, not just education level. There's so many, don't know whether what is the best word to use on the podcast. There are so many something word I want to use, something up, but I'm trying to find a better word.
Predicaments
Let's just say good for nothing degree holders lah. Okay, let's use that word. There are so many.
But I think that one I can kind of agree with you lah. I mean, there are people who study just to pass the exam. You don't learn much through that program of doing a degree, and it's a means to
I also think like some ITE grads, right? Sometimes they are intelligent, but then they don't have the opportunity to develop their intelligence. Macam, for example, like unfortunate circumstances, they are an orphan. They don't have like mother and father to support them. They have to support themselves and their siblings at a very young age. So they work multiple jobs and they don't have time to study.
So
I think that kind of man is like, they really do hard jobs outside at a very young age.
To me, those are more valuable.
Yeah, that is more resilient.
Not just resilience, it's somebody who is, let's say, naturally intelligent, but didn't have the chance to study or go for tuition and had to work to support the parents.
Guidance at home. You see, sometimes they don't receive that guidance at home. Maybe they would say, okay, maybe I want to make sure my children get. Like my mother always used to tell me when she used to work, right? She always tell me, go and study. So you don't have to do the saikang work and all that stuff, you see. So at the end of the day, parents want their children to do better. So if that person is good, the person has values, fine. But there is some truth to trying to marry someone who has achieved something lah. You want the person to have achieved something. If the person has not achieved, then in terms of like education level or a certain salary, for example, certain things you must check the box. Then after that, you see, okay, am I happy with the person? So if that box is checked, happy, you're fine.
Basically, someone who is hardworking and have a growth mindset.
I'm also wondering if let's say what this person is referring to is past values, is past. It's not about values, it's not about money, but it's also about the level of communication. Like if you are used to speaking to somebody on a rather intellectual level, and maybe your spouse is not of that level, does that bring about problems in communication in a marriage?
It depends on the person. For example, like on election day, I like to sit down with my friends and watch the results. You see, my wife will ask me, why don't you sit down and watch me? I say, because with you I have different conversation. With my friends I have different conversations. So at the end of the day, it really boils down to the person. You see, this is a common problem I find in today's.
But it shouldn't be a cause for divorce, right?
Obviously not. I think obviously not. I think at the end of the day, are you happy? That is the most important thing, right? There are couples. I met someone who came to engage me, and he said he's married to the lady for 10 years. He said he loved her and he married her, and then he spoke about intimacy, and he said in 10 years they were only intimate once. So it's a deeply unhappy marriage, and but they've been married for 10 years. They go on, and the wife doesn't want to give up. She doesn't agree with the divorce. Regardless, we just move on. So different people have different mentality. You see, I marry Eddie means whatever the problem, I'm not happy. Also, I just want to continue being married because I don't want the stigma of divorce, for instance. So people think very differently. I just realized that it's very difficult to understand, especially what someone is even saying from social media. That's why when I put up a post and people disagree with me, I will tell them, look, this is not a thesis. This is not a dissertation. This is just my comment on something. That doesn't mean I disagree with other issues. Like, I mean, you are father to daughters, right? I'm a father to daughter as well. And what I think is that I will obviously want, when inshallah is the time for my child to get married, I will obviously want her husband to have achieved something, not not a bum, for instance. You see,
not like I like him because he's funny.
No, I like him because he's funny, or some punk coming. It's going to be very. You must have the thing to look at the conditions.
I think this is also a problem because women they naturally get emotionally invested in someone so easily. Like macam another of my close friend, she was beautiful lah last time.
She was.
I mean now it's so beautiful. But then last time, of course, when you are younger, she is even more beautiful lah. So a lot of men actually wanted to marry her, but then she settled for this ITE person lah. Okay, there's nothing wrong with being ITE, but I feel that macam as an outsider, I felt like macam he is quite there's how to say macam like he
could be more driven lah.
Yeah. He's not driven. He
values
is
values.
The character is not there. Then he in terms of agama, he doesn't solat also. Then in terms of rupa, he's not handsome also. So I asked her, what do you see?
Not handsome according to you or according to her?
According to us lah.
So dia pun agree.
Okay, so not according to her lah. Okay, so I asked like, what do you see in this guy? Why do you want to marry this guy so much?
Nice
And
guy.
then she said, because he is funny. Yeah. So macam I feel that macam,
but that cannot be the only reason, right?
I don't know, macam because I think some women, they get emotionally invested in someone to the point that they are blinded with all the red flags. They are blinded and they just, okay, I just want this guy so much because I love him so much because he gives me flowers and everything. Because all those things akan die off after marriage lah.
Actually, to me, that could be a problem of the prolonged dating period.
Yeah, correct.
Like because marriage is delayed. Nowadays it's like macam so expensive to get married and all that. So people delay.
It's cheap lah. It's just that people want to do all sort of things on the
Oh, that one we need to talk about that also. This
Cheap.
No, as in marriage by right is cheap lah, nikah.
Oh.
It's not,
Simple makan walima, invite everybody. Why want to invite the whole world?
but generally
that's
people
true.
tend to wait and save money and all
correct,
that. And then
correct.
in this period of time, you find out that you don't really want to marry that person. And then you also realize that, but then I'm a bit emotionally invested in
Yeah,
this
I think that's
person.
why Islam ada guidelines to how we want to ta'aruf with that person. So macam
to
for
get to know
ladies,
the person,
the ta'aruf, get to know that person. So macam for ladies out there, macam I feel that if you want to get to know that person, you cannot like be emotionally invested in that person so much lah. Macam what if it doesn't work out? What if you see the red flags? Kan? Yeah, so macam bila you get to know tu, it's just macam get to know je. Like no.
Which I think no, I think
Thank you.
this is where there's a lot of the role of the parents is a bit pushed to the back end. Because in the sense that by right lah, let's say you like a girl or the girl likes a guy, the best way is you go ask your father, talk to my father.
Correct. That's a gentleman.
And then the
way,
parents
yeah.
would actually see whether suitable ke tak, you know.
And that way also, if you understand the family lah, you know the family, this family has good values and so on and so forth, then you want to find a spouse from that particular family lah. But let's say let's go back to one part lah. Let's say there's an ideal man, handsome, masters, rich, fancy car.
Solat.
Solat first.
Funny guy.
Whether he wakes up or subuh, I don't know. But generally solat lah, okay. And then everybody, when a proposal like that comes, they say okay lah, checks all the boxes, I just marry. But then at the end of the day, you're not happy with the person. Why? So I think the emotional part also must be taken into consideration. It must not be relegated. It must not be relegated. We cannot just see, because I can tell you this for example, in my culture, not my family culture, but the culture of people probably in the Indian subcontinent, for instance, right, where I'm from, a lot of times marriage is, if you watch the movies and all these things, you know, marriage is very something that you push for. Education level. Are you going to work in London? Are you going to work in America? Do you have this? Do you have that? It's very material. But in Islam, that's not the focus of material. But for you, if it's important, like I always tell people this. Look, if you are going to get depressed taking the bus and MRT every day to work, then make sure you have a job that will allow you to comfortably take taxi. Because when I was a trainee and I was taking packed trains to work every day, I thought to myself, you know, it's quite tiring lah. You know, and I did not want to wake up at 8 a.m., 7:30 a.m. and rush to the MRT station and take the train. I feel like the entire morning is gone, and you know. So I wanted to do something where, you know, I had planned early that I want to be self-employed, I want to do my cases at my own time, or I want to be able to hire someone to assist me in doing the cases. So you need to plan out your life. The problem is a lot of people don't plan out. They do a degree, oh, I want to do this degree because I like doing this degree. I know someone who is facing maybe some financial troubles now, and then the person went and did a degree in a particular subject, and he told me, oh, I want to do this degree because I like reading people, so I want to understand. But after you do the degree, the salary that you obtain from that degree is not enough to fit your lifestyle. So it's a problem at the end of the day. So I think before all this degree and all that, do you have similar values? Like a person, let's say, whole life did not study, but it's a very good entrepreneur, open small businesses here and there and all that, and he's happy with that. It's fine. But obviously, I do not want to sound, for want of sounding woke, I want to say that education is important. Yeah. I think it is a factor. It is not the factor. It is a factor when deciding. Yeah, at the very least, I need to know, like, not just degree. Like, I remember I attended a talk by Dr. Yasir Kadi in KL, and he was mentioning in our dunyawi aspect, we have degree in mathematics, degree in law, degree in this, degree in that. But Islamic education, we are at primary school level. You ask them to do comparison between the different schools in Aqidah or different school in Fiqh. Nobody knows. You ask them to talk about, what do the early scholars talk about, how to prove that God is true. They don't know. So I think that is also important. You cannot just talk about degree, because at the end of the day, degree holders also cheat on one another. So how do you, just because you have a degree, the person won't cheat? Just because you have a degree, the person will not be siphoning off. So there are a lot of problems that happen. Sometimes wives are not happy because husband spends too much of money on his sister, or on his mother, for instance, or the husband just doesn't come back home, or even something so simple like, I remember there was a lady who engaged me and she said, I just don't like him because he doesn't bathe. Really, these are the kind of issues. So I never ever, to be honest, we do hundreds of divorce cases every year at Emerald Law, right? And the thing is, I have not really seen one reason that I want to divorce this person because this person is not intellectual enough. I've not really seen that. Maybe that could be the underlying reason, but that is not the primary factor.
But it could be phrased in a different way, lah. Like we don't speak on the same wavelength, or we are interested.
Yeah, but they don't talk about wavelength. Nobody talks about wavelength. Their discussion always, this person cheat on me, or this person talk to other ladies, or intimacy issues, or financial issues. These are the primary things that causes trouble. Nobody is bothered about what kind of certificate you have, which school you are from. I remember my friend's mom came to me and said, I found for him Budak Raffles. She told me lah, old lady lah. Hope they're not hearing the podcast, and they won't hear lah, I think. Above 70, they won't hear the podcast, I think. So she said, oh, I got for him Budak Raffles. I said, okay, what's her name? Budak Raffles.
Nama tak tahu.
So I think they were more obsessed with the fact that their future or prospective daughter-in-law could be from Raffles, but is he going to be happy with the girl? So what? You come with the brand. This is not. I'm not purchasing a product,
Macam beli Chanel gitu.
Yeah, I'm not purchasing a product. I mean, I want you see the woman, or you see the man. You must be able to be happy, communicating, and so on and so. Because when you come back from work after the whole day, you're not going to sit down and discuss left versus right, and when will the Gaza war end, or when will Netanyahu be prosecuted?
He would.
I would also, but I don't have these discussions with my wife.
That's why I marry her. She also will talk about such things.
Okay.
Actually, she won't talk. She will just listen.
Listen. So see, you want a listener, and you want a talker. You see, so it's different.
Okay.
You tak pernah talk. You just listen. No, I realise.
Yeah. So anyway, I think it's back to compatibility lah. I think macam macam some women, right? Like I feel like if you want to get married, you shouldn't just use your heart. You also should use your brain. Macam just now you said kan, like macam like if you are not going to be okay taking the bus every single day, then find someone who can provide you with taxis and everything. And
myriad of factors many things combined together, then you see, okay, which you cannot just look at one factor. One factor alone is not enough, because after the honeymoon period is over,
correct.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, but what is the most important factor?
I think religiosity will be most important.
But so many people say, this one is an ustaz, this one is a tu, tapi still cheat on me, still treat me not well.
But that's not just being an ustaz. It's not an indication of religiosity.
This is something that people need to know. So like I think religiosity in this hadith means taqwa. Someone who fears Allah will pray, will treat you well, will be fair to you. But someone who prays doesn't necessarily mean they have taqwa. Yeah.
Actually, this one,
and cannot be self-righteous also. I've seen a lot where they are self-righteous. I'm not talking about asatiza or whatsoever, but just people in general. Just because you've learned a little bit, that doesn't mean you're always right. You need to really look at the alternative ideas and all that, and balance those.
Yeah.
but I think people are not very good. As in, it's quite difficult to be good judges of character actually, because I think if you say taqwa and how religious somebody is, it's not easy to tell. You can. Some
Actually,
people
are
quite swayed by just because somebody, for example, somebody is an imam in the masjid and reads the Quran very, very well. They associate that with being religious, though.
Yeah, correct.
When
But
it's again another very big topic lah.
so it's not that easy to tell someone's character based on that lah.
That's true.
But Islam is very pro-education. It's pro-education. I think yesterday, just a few days back, I think Anwar Ibrahim was saying that Muslim scholars in the past were not just people who studied Islamic law, but they studied astronomy, they studied other kinds of sciences and all that, because an imam also needed to know about astronomy and all that stuff, you see. So they were very well educated. So I think we are a pro-education, a religion that is very pro-education. That's what brought Muslims into the golden age.
As in knowledge and education.
Knowledge and education is very important. Not just going and collecting degrees, because there are many degree mills around the world. Many degree mills. UK, you can go to some university, not just in UK, but at many places around the world. You don't even need to go for lectures. You can just be done. Yeah, people just pass around notes, just go prepare it, spot questions and all that, and just get a bare tutu or a third class, for instance. Then how? You have third class degree, very great.
Actually, in this regard, I think I'm quite happy that Singapore is moving towards, I mean, according to the government lah, we're moving towards skills-based employment.
Yes, important.
And it's not so much on the paper qualifications. I mean, okay, that's a good thing. But I think, this whole idea about compatibility, I would say that as long as the husband and wife have a similar direction, focus towards attaining Jannah, focus towards doing the right thing and building a family together, respecting each other's rights and responsibilities, I think that's what's going to do the trick.
And being happy, very, very important part. I think many a times we go to university, we go to school, we go to jobs. No, everybody tells you how to earn money and how to earn. Nobody tells you how to be happy. Obviously, money is very important. Money is absolutely important. You cannot be happy without it, because without it, you might be on the streets unless you have someone to house you. You see? Though at the end of the day, people need to understand how they want to lead their life, what makes them happy, and then the path they take is a means to an end lah. The end goal is for them to be happy. Like for us as Muslims, it's not just to have a peaceful life here, but also a peaceful life in the hereafter. So whatever we do must be towards that dual objectives lah.
Correct. So that's the thing. I think maybe about this, we want to be happy. I think the more accurate adjective is we want to be content.
I agree.
I think so. Because I think the idea is a bit different.
Happy can be a bit hedonistic lah. I agree.
But even in the Quran, we are not told to pursue happiness.
Yeah.
We are supposed to pursue a state of contentment and syukur and gratitude, tranquility,
yes.
peace. So that
part of it, the happiness is one part of that lah.
So so I think as long as orang syukur, grateful, don't complain.
Don't compare social media. Suami aku buat ni. Kita buat ni.
Social media also is another.
Social media.
But insyaAllah lah. I mean, we hope this person who made this post, maybe he has good intentions, maybe he has seen so many problems and he wants to.
And to an extent also, I understand. I can understand that, you know, there may be some truth in what he was trying to get across, or maybe the language and all that. Certain things which were used, maybe, you know, sometimes you talk to people in a certain way, people block off, you see.
But apparently, I think, from what I heard lah, he's been saying it nicely for quite a while. Just that no one takes heed, and then now
when he used the word jantan, everyone takes him
serious.
serious.
Jantan, a few other words there that were less than polite.
Yalah.
I mean, at the end of the day, how the style is different lah. We are talking about the content and in general lah, about that lah.
It's true.
Okay lah.
Okay lah.
Thank you
Hope
so
it
much.
benefits, insyaAllah.